Have you ever felt like the weight of the world is pressing down on your shoulders? Or wondered why happiness feels so distant, no matter how much you chase it? Does it sometimes feel like the darkness inside is something you'll never escape? These are questions we all face, but the answers often feel elusive. Imagine this. You're walking down a path, carrying a heavy backpack filled with stones. Each stone represents your worries, regrets, and fears. With every step, the burden grows heavier, making it harder to move forward. Now, picture setting that backpack down, just for a moment. How light would you feel? How much farther could you go? Welcome to Wisdom Woven. On this channel, we explore profound ideas and timeless wisdom to help you navigate life's challenges. Before we dive into today's transformative journey, let me ask for a small favor. There are so many views on this channel, but only 0.2% of viewers actually subscribe. So please, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Wisdom Woven. It helps us grow and bring more meaningful content to you. In this video, we'll explore how to take yourself out of depression using the insights of Buddhism, a philosophy that has guided countless people for centuries. Depression can make life feel stagnant, like being trapped in a cycle of pain and hopelessness. But Buddhism offers a unique lens to view this struggle, reminding us that even in our darkest moments, we have the power to find peace and purpose. We'll look at the concept of dukkha, or suffering, and how recognizing its presence is the first step toward healing. Rather than fighting against your feelings, Buddhism teaches us to observe them with mindfulness, understanding their impermanent nature. This gentle shift in perspective can spark a journey of self-discovery and renewal. The path ahead is not about avoiding sadness, but about understanding it. Through simple but powerful practices, Buddhism invites us to uncover the peace hidden within our challenges. So, let's take this first step together, toward light, toward hope, and toward a life filled with meaning. Understanding the nature of suffering. Have you ever wondered why, despite all our efforts to find happiness, suffering seems to always find its way back into our lives? It's like no matter how hard we try to hold on to joy, it slips away, and we're left grappling with disappointment, pain, or sadness. It's a common experience for many of us, but here's the truth. Suffering is a part of life. It's not something we can completely avoid or escape, but we can learn to understand it, and in doing so, transform it. In Buddhism, there is a fundamental teaching that explains suffering in a profound yet simple way. This teaching is known as dukkha. It's often translated as suffering, but it also refers to dissatisfaction, discomfort, or unease. Dukkha isn't just about physical pain. It's about the deeper emotional and mental struggles we face. It's the feeling of dissatisfaction that can linger even when everything seems fine on the surface. It's the sense that something is missing or that we're not quite complete, even when we have everything we thought we needed. Now, you might be asking, why does this happen? Why is suffering a part of life? The Buddha, over 2,500 years ago, taught that suffering is rooted in the very nature of existence. He explained that life is characterized by impermanence. Everything in our lives, whether it's our relationships, our work, or even our emotions, is constantly changing. Nothing stays the same. We experience birth, growth, decay, and ultimately, death. This cycle of change can bring discomfort because we cling to things as if they are permanent. We don't want to let go of what we love, and we fear the inevitable changes that come our way. When things inevitably change or end, we feel a deep sense of loss or sadness. But here's the liberating part of the Buddha's teaching. Once we understand that suffering is an inevitable part of life, we can start to work with it instead of against it. When we resist suffering, when we try to avoid or suppress it, it grows stronger. But when we acknowledge it, understand it, and even accept it as part of our human experience, we can begin to find peace in the midst of it. The key isn't in eliminating suffering completely, but in changing our relationship to it. Let's take a moment to think about a simple example. Imagine you're holding a hot cup of tea. The cup is hot, and you can feel the heat on your hands. If you keep holding the cup without moving or adjusting your grip, the heat will start to hurt, and your hands will begin to burn. But if you acknowledge the heat and choose to either put the cup down or hold it in a way that is more comfortable, the discomfort disappears. It's the same with suffering. It's not the suffering itself that causes us harm. It's our attachment to it and our inability to let go of it. Buddhism teaches us that the root of suffering lies in our attachment to things. We cling to people, experiences, and even emotions, believing that they define our happiness. But what happens when these things change or disappear? Our happiness fades, and we're left with a feeling of emptiness. This attachment to impermanent things is what leads to dissatisfaction. But Buddhism also offers a path to freedom from this cycle of suffering. The first step is awareness. Becoming aware of our attachments, whether it's our fear of loss, our desire for control, or our attachment to a specific outcome, helps us to loosen our grip on them. When we stop holding on so tightly, we start to feel more at peace. We learn to embrace life as it is, with all its changes, rather than resisting it or trying to force things to stay the same. The second part of understanding suffering is recognizing that it comes in different forms. Sometimes it's physical pain, like an injury or illness. Other times it's emotional pain, like heartbreak, loneliness, or disappointment. And there's also the mental suffering that comes from our own thoughts and beliefs. We often create suffering in our minds by overthinking, imagining worst-case scenarios, or holding on to negative beliefs about ourselves or others. But the beauty of Buddhism is that it doesn't just focus on external circumstances. It teaches us how to heal our internal world. Through mindfulness and meditation, we can begin to quiet the mind, observe our thoughts without judgment, and develop a deeper sense of peace. But let's pause for a moment and think about how we can apply this in our everyday lives. Imagine you're going through a difficult time. Maybe you've just lost a job, ended a relationship, or are facing health challenges. The first thing you might feel is the weight of the situation. You might feel sad, angry, or even hopeless. These emotions are valid, and it's important to give yourself permission to feel them. But Buddhism teaches us not to become overwhelmed by these emotions. Instead, we can practice mindfulness by taking a step back and observing the emotions without getting lost in them. For example, if you're feeling sadness, you might say to yourself, "I am experiencing sadness right now, but I am not my sadness." This simple shift in perspective can create space between you and the emotion. Instead of being consumed by it, you can observe it and allow it to move through you. You might notice that, like all emotions, sadness is temporary. It comes, it lingers, and then it eventually passes. Understanding this impermanence helps us to not get stuck in any one emotion. In Buddhism, there is a practice known as vipassana or insight meditation, which helps us see things as they truly are, impermanent, interconnected, and ever-changing. This practice allows us to gain insight into the nature of our suffering and, more importantly, how to release our attachment to it. The more we practice mindfulness, the more we begin to see that suffering is not something to be feared or avoided, but something that we can understand and transform. One of the most powerful teachings in Buddhism is the idea that suffering is not the end. In fact, suffering can be the beginning of our awakening. When we face our suffering with awareness and understanding, we open ourselves up to deeper wisdom and compassion. We start to see that our struggles are not meaningless or random, but part of the natural process of growth and transformation. Through suffering, we learn, we grow, and we become more compassionate beings. So, the next time you're faced with a difficult situation, remember that suffering is a part of the human experience. It's not something to avoid, but something to understand. When we change our relationship with suffering, when we stop fighting against it and start embracing it with mindfulness, we can begin to free ourselves from its grip. Instead of being overwhelmed by our struggles, we can move through them with grace and wisdom. By recognizing the impermanent nature of suffering, we open ourselves to the possibility of healing. It's a path that doesn't promise to eliminate pain, but one that offers a way to transform it into something meaningful and liberating. So, take a deep breath and know that you're not alone in your suffering. Everyone experiences it in some form, but through mindfulness and understanding, we can all find our way out. And that path begins with recognizing suffering, not as an obstacle, but as a gateway to greater wisdom, compassion, and peace. The role of mindfulness in healing. When we talk about healing, many of us imagine it as something that happens over time, through treatment, advice, or simply waiting for the pain to fade. But in Buddhism, healing doesn't come from waiting. It comes from being present, fully aware, and deeply connected to the here and now. This is where mindfulness enters the picture. Mindfulness is the practice of paying attention to the present moment without judgment and with full awareness. It sounds simple, right? But the truth is, it can be one of the most profound tools for healing, especially when it comes to mental and emotional struggles like depression. Depression often pulls us into the past, into memories of pain, mistakes, or regrets, or it pushes us into an uncertain future filled with fears and worries. In both cases, we are not living in the present moment. We are either reliving past moments or imagining future ones. Mindfulness allows us to gently bring our focus back to the present, where life is happening and where healing can begin. When we focus on the present, we begin to recognize that the intense emotions we feel, the thoughts we have, and the pain we experience are temporary. They don't last forever. They come and go like clouds drifting across the sky. The Buddha himself spoke about the importance of mindfulness as a way to overcome suffering. In the Satipatthana Sutta, he outlines the practice of mindfulness and how it can lead us toward enlightenment, freedom, and peace. This ancient teaching is more relevant today than ever. In our fast-paced world, where distractions are everywhere and our minds are constantly racing, mindfulness teaches us how to slow down and observe our thoughts, feelings, and sensations with curiosity and compassion. When we practice mindfulness, we become aware of our thoughts, but we don't get caught up in them. We realize that we are not our thoughts. Thoughts come and go, but the true self remains constant. We learn to watch our feelings as they arise, without reacting to them. Rather than resisting pain, we acknowledge it, sit with it, and allow it to pass. It is through this act of non-resistance that healing happens. It's like standing in the middle of a storm and simply letting the wind and rain pass through you, instead of fighting against them. One powerful way to practice mindfulness is through mindful breathing. In moments of anxiety or sadness, simply focusing on your breath can bring you back to the present moment. Notice how the air feels as it enters and exits your body. Feel the rise and fall of your chest. The breath is always with you, and by focusing on it, you begin to ground yourself in the now. With practice, this simple act of breathing can calm your mind, reduce stress, and help you step away from negative thought patterns. Mindfulness also involves observing your body. In Buddhist practice, the body is seen as a vehicle for awakening. When we pay attention to how our bodies feel, we can uncover areas of tension or discomfort that may be linked to emotional struggles. By being present with these sensations, we can release physical tension and create space for emotional healing. It's a holistic approach, mind and body working together to find balance and peace. You may be thinking, that sounds good in theory, but how do I actually make mindfulness a part of my everyday life? The answer lies in small, consistent practices. You don't need to sit for hours in meditation to benefit from mindfulness. You can practice mindfulness in the small moments of your day, while you're walking, eating, or even washing dishes. The key is to engage fully with whatever you're doing, paying attention to the sensations, sounds, and movements, and being present with them. For example, when you're eating, instead of rushing through the meal or thinking about what comes next, take a moment to truly savor the food. Notice the textures, the flavors, the colors. Feel the warmth of the food in your mouth. By doing this, you're practicing mindfulness. And over time, these small moments of mindfulness add up, creating a foundation of awareness that can help you face bigger challenges with more calm and clarity. Another helpful practice is the body scan. This involves mentally scanning your body from head to toe, paying attention to any areas of tension or discomfort. If you notice tightness in your shoulders or a clenched jaw, simply observe it. Don't try to change anything, just notice. Over time, this practice can help you release tension and become more attuned to your body's signals. It also helps you become more aware of your emotional state, as physical sensations are often closely tied to our emotions. Mindfulness isn't just about observation, it's also about acceptance. When we practice mindfulness, we're not trying to change what we feel. We're simply acknowledging it. If you feel sadness, instead of pushing it away or feeling ashamed of it, you allow yourself to feel it fully. You say to yourself, it's okay to feel this way. This acceptance can be incredibly liberating. It takes the pressure off because you no longer have to fight against your feelings. You can simply experience them, knowing they are not permanent. There's a Buddhist concept known as anicca, which refers to impermanence. Everything in life, including our thoughts and emotions, is temporary. When we practice mindfulness, we become more aware of this truth. We begin to see that the pain we're feeling, the sadness, the anxiety, they are not permanent. They are like waves in the ocean, rising and falling. Mindfulness helps us ride the waves of life, instead of being knocked over by them. As you continue practicing mindfulness, you may notice a shift in your perspective. Instead of seeing yourself as a victim of your emotions, you begin to see yourself as a witness. You realize that you have the power to choose how to respond to your thoughts and feelings. This shift is empowering because it puts you back in the driver's seat of your life. You are no longer at the mercy of your emotions. Instead, you are the observer, the one who can choose peace, compassion, and clarity, no matter what is happening around you. In times of depression, mindfulness can feel like a lifeline. When everything seems overwhelming and out of control, mindfulness offers a way to regain balance. It teaches you that you don't have to react to every thought or emotion. You can simply observe, breathe, and let go. Over time, this practice can bring you closer to inner peace and help you heal from the inside out. If you've ever struggled with depression, you know that it's not just about feeling sad. It's about feeling disconnected from life. Mindfulness is the bridge that connects you back to the present moment, to the beauty of life as it is, right now. It doesn't require you to change your circumstances, but it gives you the tools to change how you relate to them. By incorporating mindfulness into your daily routine, you can begin to transform your experience of life. What once felt like suffering can start to feel like an opportunity for growth. You'll find that the more you practice, the more natural it becomes to live with awareness and presence. And as you do, you'll discover a deeper sense of peace, clarity, and joy that was always there, waiting for you to notice. Ultimately, mindfulness teaches us one of Buddhism's most important lessons, that healing comes not from escaping our feelings, but from fully experiencing them. It's about being present with what is, knowing that everything, good or bad, is part of the unfolding journey of life. So, take a deep breath, bring yourself into the present moment, and know that you have everything you need to begin the path to healing. You don't have to do it alone. Mindfulness is always there to guide you, every step of the way. The Noble Eightfold Path, a guiding compass. When you feel lost, without direction, or trapped in a cycle of sadness and confusion, the question often arises, what can I do to change? How can I make things better? The good news is that there is a way that leads you out of the darkness and into the light. In Buddhism, this way is known as the Noble Eightfold Path. It is a path that guides us through life's challenges, leading us toward freedom from suffering and towards lasting happiness. The Eightfold Path is not something distant or abstract. It is a practical guide, a blueprint for living a life that brings peace, balance, and joy. It's a path that everyone can walk, regardless of where they are in life or what struggles they face. It's simple, yet deep in its wisdom. Let's explore these 8 steps, and you'll see how each one can be a powerful tool for lifting you out of depression and into a brighter, more fulfilling life. Right view. The first step on the path is to have the right view. This doesn't mean having a perfect view, or seeing things exactly as they are all the time. Rather, it's about understanding life from the perspective of truth. This includes seeing that suffering is a part of life, that everything is temporary, and that the way we perceive things shapes how we feel. If you're struggling with depression, adopting the right view can help you see that your suffering is not permanent. It's something that can change with time, with understanding, and with practice. The right view is about recognizing that happiness is not something we can grab hold of in the future. It is something we can cultivate here and now. This shift in perspective can give you a sense of peace because it helps you understand that where you are today does not define your tomorrow. You are not stuck in your current circumstances. Change is always possible. Right intention. Once you have the right view, the next step is right intention. This is about setting your heart in the right direction. What do you truly want out of life? What kind of person do you want to become? Right intention means making a commitment to pursue kindness, compassion, and understanding. It's about moving away from intentions driven by greed, hatred, or delusion, and focusing instead on positive intentions that lead to peace and healing. When you are stuck in depression, your intentions might feel muddled or clouded. You may feel unsure about what you really want or what's best for you. Right intention helps you clarify that. It's not about being perfect. It's about consciously choosing to take steps toward healing, toward kindness to yourself, and toward a life that reflects your deepest values. Right speech. The way we speak to ourselves and to others plays a huge role in shaping our experience of the world. Right speech means speaking in ways that are truthful, kind, and helpful. It means avoiding lies, gossip, and harmful words. When we speak negatively to ourselves, especially when we're feeling depressed, we reinforce the very feelings we want to escape from. We tell ourselves we're not good enough, that we'll never get better, or that we're worthless. Instead, right speech encourages us to be compassionate in our words, especially towards ourselves. It invites us to speak truthfully, but gently. This can be as simple as changing the way you talk to yourself. Instead of saying, "I'll never get out of this," try saying, "I'm going through a difficult time, but I know I can heal." The words you speak, both internally and externally, shape your reality. By speaking kindly, you open up the possibility for change. Right action. Right action is about living in a way that is ethical and compassionate. It means doing things that are good for yourself and others. When we're depressed, it's easy to fall into harmful habits. Self-destructive behaviors, withdrawing from others, or indulging in things that only give temporary relief but don't address the root cause of our suffering. Right action is about choosing to act in ways that bring you peace and support your long-term well-being. This doesn't mean you have to make big changes all at once. Right action can start with small steps, taking care of your body, reaching out to someone you trust, or practicing a healthy habit like meditation. Every positive action, no matter how small, helps you break free from the cycle of negativity. Right livelihood. In Buddhism, right livelihood refers to making a living in a way that doesn't harm others or yourself. It's about finding work or ways of living that are in line with your values. If your job or lifestyle causes stress, anger, or unhappiness, it's worth considering how to align your work with your inner values. This doesn't mean quitting your job right away, but rather, thinking about how you can bring more balance and peace into your daily life. When you feel trapped in a job or a situation that causes you distress, it can add to your depression. Right livelihood invites you to consider whether your daily activities are in harmony with who you are and what you value. It's about finding ways to bring peace into every aspect of your life, including your work. Right effort. Right effort is the energy you put into improving your life and well-being. It's about making a conscious effort to cultivate good qualities and let go of unhelpful ones. When you're stuck in depression, it's easy to feel like you have no energy or motivation to make any effort. But even small efforts, like getting out of bed or taking a deep breath, are steps toward healing. Right effort is not about pushing yourself beyond your limits. It's about making consistent, small efforts toward growth and improvement. This is where Buddhism encourages patience. The path to overcoming depression, or any challenge, doesn't happen overnight. But every step you take, no matter how small, is a step in the right direction. So be kind to yourself and keep moving forward, little by little. Right mindfulness. Mindfulness is the practice of being fully present in the moment, without judgment. When you're depressed, your mind often races with negative thoughts, fears, and regrets. Right mindfulness invites you to simply observe your thoughts and feelings without getting caught up in them. It's about recognizing that your thoughts are not who you are. By practicing mindfulness, you can create a space between you and your emotions, allowing them to pass without overwhelming you. Through mindfulness, you can become more aware of your thought patterns and how they influence your mood. It helps you break free from the cycle of negative thinking and brings you back to the present moment, where you can find peace and clarity. Right concentration. Finally, right concentration is about developing the ability to focus your mind. This is often practiced through meditation, where you focus on a single point of attention, such as your breath. Right concentration allows you to train your mind to be clear and calm. When you're depressed, your mind might feel scattered or chaotic. Right concentration gives you the tools to quiet the noise in your mind and bring yourself back to a place of calm. Through meditation and concentration, you can find the stillness you need to reconnect with your true self. It's in this stillness that you can begin to heal, to rediscover your strength, and to find the peace that has always been there, waiting for you. The Noble Eightfold Path is not a quick fix, nor is it a path that promises instant happiness. But it is a path that leads to lasting peace and freedom. It's a path that, when followed with patience and commitment, will guide you out of depression and toward a life filled with wisdom, compassion, and joy. Overcoming despair through loving kindness. In the midst of the storm that is depression, it's easy to feel lost and isolated. When the world seems dark, it can be hard to see the light that others may offer. Yet, there is one thing that can gently cut through the darkness of despair. A powerful, simple force known as loving kindness. It's one of the most profound teachings in Buddhism, and when we embrace it, we find that it not only helps us heal but also transforms how we see ourselves and others. Loving kindness, or metta, is a practice of unconditional love and goodwill. It's a love that doesn't demand anything in return. It's not based on how someone treats you or how much they give you. Loving kindness is about extending compassion and warmth to yourself and to everyone around you, regardless of what's happening in your life. It starts with you, recognizing your own value and worth even when you don't feel it. One of the biggest obstacles to overcoming depression is the harsh inner dialogue we carry with ourselves. We are often our own worst critics, telling ourselves that we are not good enough or that we'll never change. This negative self-talk can make depression feel even heavier, reinforcing the belief that there is no hope. But here's where loving kindness can make a difference. When we practice metta, we begin to treat ourselves with the same warmth and understanding we would offer a friend in need. Instead of criticizing ourselves for feeling low or stuck, we can gently remind ourselves that it's okay to be human, that it's okay to feel pain, and that we deserve love just as much as anyone else. Imagine you're talking to a dear friend who's going through a hard time. You wouldn't tell them to get over it or blame them for their suffering. No, you would offer words of encouragement, compassion, and support. You would remind them of their strengths, their beauty, and their capacity to heal. Why not offer the same kindness to yourself? When we begin practicing loving kindness, we can start by saying phrases like, "May I be happy, may I be healthy, may I live with ease." You might feel awkward at first, especially if you've been hard on yourself for a long time, but over time, these simple words can begin to shift your mindset. They help you create a space where healing can begin, where your pain is met with tenderness instead of judgment. Loving kindness doesn't stop with ourselves. It extends to others as well. The practice of metta encourages us to open our hearts to the people around us, even those with whom we may have conflicts. It's easy to feel resentment or anger toward others when we are struggling with depression, but holding on to those negative feelings only keeps us trapped in the cycle of suffering. By practicing loving kindness toward others, we release ourselves from the grip of bitterness and open the door to peace. Start by wishing others well in your heart. May you be happy, may you be healthy, may you live with ease. You don't need to say this out loud. It's the intention that matters. Over time, you may find that your feelings toward others begin to soften, and even the people who once upset you no longer have the same power over your emotions. You're no longer reacting from a place of hurt, but from a place of love and understanding. What's beautiful about the practice of loving kindness is that it's not just about thinking kind thoughts. It's about embodying that kindness through our actions. When you feel the warmth of metta in your heart, you'll begin to radiate it outward. You might find yourself being more patient with others, more generous, or more forgiving. These small acts of kindness create ripples, touching not only those you directly interact with, but also spreading outward into the world. Loving kindness helps us recognize that, at our core, we are all connected. We are not isolated islands. We are all human beings with our own struggles, dreams, and hopes. When we send love and goodwill to others, we are reminded that no one is truly alone in their suffering. We are all walking this path together, and there is strength in knowing that we are not the only ones facing challenges. By practicing metta, we create a network of compassion that uplifts everyone, ourselves included. But you may ask, what if I don't feel love for others? What if I'm too angry or hurt? This is a common question, and it's important to acknowledge that loving kindness doesn't require you to force feelings that aren't there. It's not about pretending to love someone who has hurt you, or putting on a mask of happiness when you feel sad. Instead, loving kindness is about creating space for healing to happen. It's a way of opening your heart without judgment, allowing yourself to feel whatever you're feeling, but choosing not to let those feelings dictate your actions. Over time, the more you practice, the more natural. The power of impermanence, finding hope. In life, everything changes. It is one of the most certain truths we can rely on. If we look closely at the world around us, we see that nothing stays the same. Trees grow and shed their leaves, the seasons shift, and even our thoughts and feelings are always in flux. This is the concept of impermanence, or anicca, in Buddhism. It is the idea that everything, whether good or bad, will eventually change. And this can be the key to understanding and overcoming the pain we feel during difficult times, including depression. Think of a storm. When a storm arrives, it feels overwhelming, like it will never end. The wind howls, the rain pours, and the sky is dark. It seems as though the storm will continue forever. But if we step back and observe, we know that storms don't last. Sooner or later, the clouds will part, the sun will break through, and the storm will pass. Life's challenges, no matter how heavy they seem, are like storms. They are temporary, and they will eventually pass too. This understanding of impermanence gives us a powerful sense of hope. When we are struggling with depression, it can feel like the darkness will never end, like we are trapped in a never-ending cycle of sorrow. But impermanence reminds us that this, too, shall pass. Just like the storm, our suffering will eventually fade away. Imagine your feelings of sadness, anxiety, or fear as clouds in the sky. When you focus on them too much, they can seem endless, like they are all there is. But if you remind yourself that they are just temporary, like clouds moving through the sky, you can feel a sense of release. You don't have to hold on to them. You can let them come and go without letting them define you. One of the most helpful practices in Buddhism is to cultivate an awareness of impermanence in every moment. This doesn't mean you ignore your emotions or pretend they aren't there. It means you recognize that emotions, good or bad, are constantly shifting. By observing them with mindfulness, you create space between you and your feelings. This space allows you to see them for what they truly are, temporary. When you experience depression, it may feel like there is no escape, that the heaviness you feel will never end. But by embracing the truth of impermanence, you can begin to shift your perspective. Instead of thinking, I am depressed, you can think, I am experiencing depression right now, but this moment will pass. This subtle shift in thinking can have a profound effect on your mindset. You may also begin to notice that in every moment, you are not only experiencing sadness or frustration, but also moments of peace, joy, and clarity, even if they are brief. These moments are just as real and just as fleeting. As you practice mindfulness, you will become more attuned to the subtler shifts in your emotions. You'll start to recognize that happiness and sadness are both impermanent, and that neither defines your true self. When we start to see our emotions and experiences as transient, we can also start to let go of our attachment to them. Buddhism teaches us that attachment to things, whether they are our thoughts, emotions, or even material possessions, causes suffering. By becoming less attached to our emotions, we can find greater peace. This doesn't mean we stop feeling or caring about things. It means we let go of the need to hold on to them, especially when they are painful. Think about a time when you've had a difficult experience. Maybe you were angry, sad, or afraid. In that moment, it may have felt like the emotion would last forever. But looking back, you can see that it eventually passed. The same is true for our more difficult emotions. Even if you feel overwhelmed by sadness or hopelessness, know that these feelings are not permanent. They will change, just as the weather changes. This is not to say that you should ignore your suffering or pretend that it doesn't matter. Instead, it's about recognizing that your suffering is part of the flow of life, and it will eventually pass, just like everything else. When you embrace impermanence, you stop holding on to the belief that your current struggles will last forever. You start to see them as temporary visitors in your life, rather than permanent residents. There is also great power in the present moment. When we focus on the now, we can free ourselves from the weight of past regrets and future anxieties. The past is gone, and the future has not yet arrived. The only moment we truly have is this one, right here, right now. When you recognize that the present moment is all you can control, you begin to let go of the stories you've been telling yourself about your suffering. You start to focus on the small, beautiful moments that arise in your life. Moments of peace, gratitude, or connection with others. By practicing mindfulness and embracing impermanence, you begin to shift your relationship with your emotions. Instead of identifying with them, thinking that they define who you are, you start to see them as passing clouds. This can help you let go of the need to hold on to your depression, your fears, or your regrets. You begin to understand that you are not your emotions, but rather the observer of them. The truth of impermanence is not just a philosophical idea. It's a deeply healing practice. It helps you see that no matter how painful or challenging life gets, things will change. Your current struggles will fade, and new experiences will arise. This constant flow of change can be a source of hope, even in the darkest of times. When you remember that nothing lasts forever, you open yourself up to the possibility of healing and transformation. The beauty of impermanence is that it reminds us that we have the power to create change in our lives. If we can accept that everything is constantly shifting, we can start to take steps toward creating the changes we want to see. It may not happen overnight, and it may take time, but each moment offers a new opportunity for growth and healing. So, the next time you find yourself feeling overwhelmed by sadness or depression, remember this: nothing lasts forever. Just as the storm eventually passes, your pain will pass too. The darkness will give way to the light, and you will find your way out of the storm. In every moment, there is the potential for change, for growth, and for peace. Embrace the power of impermanence and allow it to guide you toward hope and healing, detachment, and letting go of pain. Have you ever noticed how tightly we hold on to our pain? Sometimes it feels like we can't let go, as if our suffering is a part of who we are. The past hurts, the disappointments, the regrets. These things stick with us. It's almost as though without them, we wouldn't know who we are anymore. But here's an important question. What if holding on to all that pain is actually preventing us from healing? In Buddhism, one of the core teachings is about detachment. It's not about being indifferent or uncaring. It's about freeing ourselves from the attachments that cause us suffering. Attachment, in simple terms, means holding on too tightly, whether it's to people, possessions, expectations, or even emotions like anger and grief. The more we cling to these things, the more they weigh us down. It's like holding onto a rope that's pulling us deeper into the mud. The harder we grip, the deeper we sink. But if we let go of the rope, if we release our grip, we can rise. This is the essence of detachment, the freedom that comes from not identifying with our pain. Detachment isn't about pushing away our emotions or pretending they don't exist. Instead, it's about recognizing them, understanding them, and then letting them flow through us without letting them define us. Think about your past for a moment. How often do you relive past mistakes, hurtful moments, or painful experiences? It's easy to fall into the trap of constantly replaying those events in your mind. But in doing so, you're keeping those moments alive, as if they're happening over and over again. This habit of clinging to the past is a major source of our suffering. In Buddhism, the teachings of anatta, the doctrine of no self, help us understand that we are not our pain. We are not our past mistakes, our failures, or our regrets. These things do not define us. They are experiences, yes, but they are not the whole of who we are. This realization is incredibly liberating. When we see that pain is just something we experience, not something we are, we can start to loosen our grip on it. You might be thinking, but how can I just let go of the pain I've been carrying for so long? It's not easy, of course. The process of letting go takes time and patience. But the good news is that it is possible. Just as a tree sheds its leaves in the fall, we too can shed our attachments, layer by layer. One of the most powerful practices in Buddhism is mindfulness. Mindfulness is simply the act of being present in the moment, without judgment. When we practice mindfulness, we begin to notice the patterns of our thoughts and emotions. Instead of getting caught up in them, we can observe them as they come and go. We start to see that our pain, like everything else in life, is temporary. A simple mindfulness exercise you can try is to sit quietly for a few minutes, focusing on your breath. As you inhale and exhale, notice any thoughts or feelings that arise. Don't judge them, and don't try to push them away. Just observe them. Watch how they come and go, like clouds passing through the sky. Over time, you'll begin to realize that you don't have to hold on to your thoughts or emotions. You can simply let them be, knowing that they too shall pass. Another practice that can help with detachment is metta, loving-kindness meditation. This practice involves sending thoughts of love and compassion to yourself and others. It helps soften the heart and cultivate a sense of connection and empathy. When we practice loving-kindness, we open ourselves up to the possibility of healing. We begin to let go of any resentment or bitterness we may be holding on to, replacing it with compassion. Letting go of pain doesn't mean we forget the lessons we've learned from our suffering. In fact, the wisdom we gain through difficult experiences can guide us on our path toward growth and healing. But when we stop identifying with the pain itself, we free ourselves from the grip of suffering. We learn to live in the present, not constantly haunted by the past. Buddhism also teaches us about the impermanence of all things. Anicca, or impermanence, is the understanding that everything in life is constantly changing. This includes our pain. Just as happiness doesn't last forever, neither does suffering. Pain comes and goes, and this cycle is a natural part of life. When we accept the impermanence of our pain, we start to see it in a new light. We don't need to resist it. We can allow it to be a temporary visitor, knowing that it will eventually pass. There's an old Buddhist saying, "Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional." This means that we can't always control what happens to us in life, but we do have a choice in how we respond. We can choose to hold on to our pain, to let it consume us. Or we can choose to let it go, to embrace the healing process. One of the most important things to remember when practicing detachment is that it's not about avoiding pain. It's about embracing the reality of pain without letting it control us. Just like when a storm passes through, we don't avoid the rain, but we know it will eventually stop. Similarly, we don't avoid our emotions, but we know they too will pass. When we detach from our pain, we create space for healing to occur. We stop identifying with our suffering, and instead, we begin to identify with our true selves, who we are beyond the pain, beyond the hurt. We become more connected to our inner peace, to the quiet stillness within that has always been there. Detachment doesn't mean we don't care. In fact, it's quite the opposite. It means we care enough to release the grip that pain has on us. It means we love ourselves enough to let go of what no longer serves us. It means we value our own peace and well-being enough to make space for healing. So, how do we begin? The first step is awareness. Start by noticing where you are holding on to pain in your life. Are there past events or relationships that you're still clinging to? Are there emotions you're resisting or trying to control? Once you become aware of these attachments, you can begin the process of gently letting them go. Letting go takes practice. It doesn't happen overnight, but with patience and compassion, you will begin to feel lighter. You will begin to feel free. You'll notice that you're no longer weighed down by the past, and you'll start to experience life with a new sense of openness and possibility. Remember, detachment is not about withdrawing from life. It's about participating fully in life without being controlled by it. It's about letting go of what doesn't serve you, so you can embrace what truly matters: your peace, your joy, and your ability to live freely in the present moment. The role of meditation in self-discovery. In the busy world we live in, where noise and distractions surround us at every moment, we often lose touch with ourselves. We rush from one task to the next, chasing after things that promise happiness but leave us empty. Our minds are constantly running, like a wild river, carrying us away from the present moment and drowning us in worries about the past or future. But there is a simple, yet profound, practice that can help us reconnect with ourselves: meditation. Meditation, in its simplest form, is the practice of sitting quietly, focusing on the breath, and observing the thoughts that arise without judgment. It is an ancient practice deeply rooted in Buddhism that helps us return to our true nature. When we meditate, we create a space for self-awareness to blossom. This stillness is not just the absence of noise. It is the presence of our deeper selves. Now, you might wonder, what does sitting quietly really do? How can it help me with my struggles? my pain, or my depression? The answer lies in the nature of our mind. Our minds are constantly in motion, much like a storm on the ocean, with thoughts and emotions crashing against each other. This constant turbulence can make it hard to find peace. But when we sit down to meditate, we begin to calm the storm. It's not about stopping the thoughts. It's about observing them from a distance without getting caught up in them. Imagine you're standing at the edge of a lake. The water is still, and you can see your reflection clearly. But then, a stone is thrown into the water, and the surface becomes disturbed. The reflection wavers, and everything seems unclear. This is what our minds are like when we're overwhelmed with thoughts and emotions. The stone is the external world. Our problems, our responsibilities, our past mistakes, constantly causing ripples in our minds. But when we meditate, we allow the ripples to settle. Over time, the water becomes clear again, and we can see ourselves as we truly are, without the distortions of fear, anxiety, or judgment. Through meditation, we create space between ourselves and our thoughts. Instead of being swept away by the current of emotions, we learn to observe them with curiosity and compassion. This shift in perspective is incredibly powerful. It allows us to see that our thoughts are not who we are. We are the observer, the one who notices the thoughts, not the thoughts themselves. This awareness gives us the freedom to choose how we respond to our emotions, rather than being controlled by them. In Buddhism, this practice is known as mindfulness. It is the art of being fully present in the moment, without distraction or attachment. Mindfulness helps us cultivate a deep sense of self-awareness, where we can see our habits, patterns, and reactions with clarity. When we meditate regularly, we begin to notice the subtle ways in which we create suffering for ourselves. We become aware of the negative thought cycles that keep us stuck in depression or anxiety. With this awareness, we can begin to let go of the thoughts that no longer serve us and replace them with thoughts of peace, acceptance, and kindness. One of the most profound insights we gain through meditation is the realization that everything is impermanent. This is a core teaching of Buddhism. Our emotions, our thoughts, our struggles, none of them last forever. In meditation, we come to see that even the darkest clouds of depression eventually pass. They may seem overwhelming in the moment, but if we sit with them and observe them without judgment, we can feel them dissolve. This awareness of impermanence is liberating. It reminds us that no matter how hard things get, we are not trapped. Change is always possible. Meditation also teaches us to cultivate loving kindness toward ourselves and others. When we are struggling with depression or pain, we can be our own worst critics. We judge ourselves for feeling the way we do, and this only adds to our suffering. But through meditation, we learn to be gentle with ourselves. We learn to treat ourselves with the same kindness and compassion that we would offer to a friend in need. This practice of loving kindness is transformative. It allows us to heal from within and begin to shift the way we relate to ourselves and the world. As we continue to meditate, we develop a deeper understanding of our true nature. We begin to see that our thoughts, emotions, and experiences do not define us. We are not our sadness, our fear, or our anger. We are the space in which these things arise and pass. This realization is incredibly freeing. It allows us to step back from our problems and see them from a new perspective. Instead of identifying with our struggles, we begin to see ourselves as the calm presence that witnesses them. Through consistent meditation, we cultivate a sense of inner peace that is not dependent on external circumstances. The world around us may still be chaotic, but we learn to remain grounded in the present moment. We come to understand that happiness is not something we need to chase. It is always present within us, waiting to be uncovered. Meditation helps us connect with this inner well of peace and contentment, regardless of what is happening in our lives. If you're new to meditation, it might feel difficult at first. Your mind might race, and you might find it hard to sit still. This is normal. Meditation is not about perfection. It's about practice. The more you practice, the easier it becomes to settle into stillness. Even just a few minutes each day can make a huge difference. Over time, you'll begin to notice subtle shifts in your mindset. You'll become more aware of your thoughts, more present in the moment, and more compassionate toward yourself. One of the beautiful things about meditation is that it doesn't require any special skills or equipment. All you need is a quiet space and a willingness to sit with yourself. You don't need to be a Buddhist or have any particular beliefs. Meditation is for everyone. It's a tool that can be used by anyone who wants to experience more peace and clarity in their lives. In the end, meditation is about returning to ourselves. It's about peeling back the layers of distraction and noise to uncover the stillness and wisdom that already reside within us. Through meditation, we can learn to navigate life's challenges with a calm and steady mind. We can find peace, not by changing the world around us, but by changing the way we relate to the world. As you continue your meditation practice, remember that the path to self-discovery is not always easy. There will be days when your mind feels restless and the darkness of depression feels overwhelming. But every time you sit down to meditate, you are taking a step toward healing. Each moment of stillness is a moment of growth. Trust the process and know that, just like the calm after the storm, peace is always within reach. Building resilience through Buddhist practices. Life is unpredictable. It's a series of ups and downs, moments of joy and times of struggle. But there's something extraordinary about the way human beings respond to hardship. Some crumble under pressure, while others find a way to rise above, to build resilience, and grow stronger with each challenge. How can we become like those who face adversity with strength, calmness, and grace? The answer lies in Buddhist practices. Buddhism teaches us that resilience is not something we are born with, but rather, something we can cultivate through mindfulness, compassion, and understanding. These ancient practices offer timeless wisdom on how to face life's challenges with a calm heart and a steady mind. The foundation of resilience in Buddhism is the understanding that suffering is a natural part of life, but it is not permanent. It's a passing phase, just like the clouds in the sky that come and go. Understanding suffering. The first step toward building resilience is understanding suffering itself. In Buddhist teachings, the Buddha spoke of the Four Noble Truths. The first truth is that suffering exists. This suffering isn't just physical pain. It encompasses emotional and mental struggles too. It includes feelings of sadness, fear, frustration, and even the simple dissatisfaction we feel when life doesn't go as planned. Recognizing that suffering is part of being human is not something to fear. It's simply the reality of life. When we can accept that suffering will come and go, just like the changing seasons, we no longer see it as something to avoid or resist. Instead of fearing it, we start to see it as an opportunity to grow. Just as a seed must break open to grow into a plant, our own challenges can break us open to reveal deeper layers of strength, compassion, and wisdom. The power of mindfulness. One of the core teachings in Buddhism is mindfulness. Mindfulness is the practice of paying attention in the present moment without judgment. When we're caught up in worry or stress, it's easy to forget that we have the power to choose how we respond to the situation. Mindfulness teaches us to pause and simply observe what's happening in our minds and bodies. We don't need to judge our thoughts or emotions, nor do we need to act on them immediately. By practicing mindfulness, we learn to step back and gain clarity, which helps us make better decisions, especially in difficult situations. Mindfulness also allows us to be fully present in the moment. So often, we get caught in the cycle of thinking about the past or worrying about the future, which drains our energy and distracts us from what's happening right now. Resilience is about staying grounded, even when the world around us feels chaotic. When we practice mindfulness, we stop running away from our emotions and start to face them with acceptance and curiosity. This acceptance of our feelings, without judgment, helps us build emotional resilience. We no longer try to suppress or escape our negative emotions, but instead, we acknowledge them and allow them to pass naturally. Compassion, the heart of resilience. Another key to building resilience is compassion, both for ourselves and for others. Buddhism teaches that compassion is not just a feeling but a practice. It's about actively choosing to show kindness, empathy, and understanding, not just to others but also to ourselves. When life gets tough, it's easy to be hard on ourselves, to think we're not good enough, or that we've failed. But this self-criticism only weakens us. Compassion teaches us to treat ourselves with the same kindness we would offer a friend in need. Building resilience is about learning to be gentle with ourselves in times of struggle. It's about understanding that we don't have to be perfect or always get it right. Instead of criticizing ourselves for not having all the answers, we can show ourselves compassion, acknowledge our difficulties, and simply do our best in each moment. This mindset makes us more adaptable and open to change. With compassion, we stop seeing challenges as threats, and instead, we view them as opportunities for growth. The power of meditation. Meditation is another powerful tool for building resilience. In Buddhism, meditation is not just a practice of relaxation. It is a deep practice of self-awareness and transformation. When we meditate, we sit in stillness and connect with our inner world. In the quiet of meditation, we begin to notice the patterns of our thoughts and emotions. We become aware of the stories we tell ourselves, the beliefs that limit us, and the fears that hold us back. Meditation allows us to observe these mental patterns without getting caught up in them. With practice, we learn not to identify with every thought that passes through our minds. We see them as temporary, like clouds drifting through the sky. This perspective helps us detach from our problems, making it easier to handle life's difficulties with equanimity. Meditation teaches us that we are not our thoughts, and we are certainly not our problems. This shift in perspective is incredibly empowering. It allows us to build mental resilience by recognizing that we have control over how we respond to our thoughts and emotions. Developing patience. Patience is another quality that is deeply rooted in Buddhist teachings and plays a crucial role in building resilience. In our fast-paced world, we often expect quick results and instant solutions. But true resilience is developed over time, through persistent effort and by learning to trust the process of life. Patience allows us to endure difficult situations without rushing to escape them. It teaches us that even in times of uncertainty, we can find peace in the present moment, knowing that everything will unfold in its own time. Buddhism encourages us to cultivate patience through mindfulness and awareness. When we're patient, we're less likely to react impulsively or let our emotions control us. We can simply be with what is, without feeling the need to change it immediately. This sense of calm acceptance is at the heart of resilience. Embracing change. One of the most powerful lessons Buddhism offers is the understanding of impermanence, the idea that everything is constantly changing. Nothing in life is permanent, including our suffering. When we accept that change is inevitable, we stop clinging to our discomforts or trying to hold on to fleeting moments of happiness. We learn to flow with life, to ride the waves of change instead of fighting against them. Resilience comes from this ability to adapt to change with grace. When we embrace impermanence, we stop seeing difficult times as signs of failure. Instead, we understand that they are part of the natural ebb and flow of life. Challenges are not permanent. They will pass, just as good times will too. By embracing change, we become more flexible and adaptable, building inner strength that helps us navigate whatever comes our way. Conclusion: a journey of inner strength. Building resilience through Buddhist practices is not an overnight process. It is a gradual journey, one step at a time. But with each mindful breath, with each compassionate action, and with each meditation session, we build our inner strength. We come to realize that we are not defined by our struggles, but by how we choose to respond to them. Resilience is not about avoiding pain, but about learning to face it with courage and wisdom. It's about recognizing that we have the power within ourselves to overcome life's challenges and to emerge stronger on the other side. Through the practices of mindfulness, compassion, meditation, and patience, we can build resilience and cultivate a life of peace, joy, and inner strength. As you move forward, remember that every challenge you face is an opportunity to grow. Every moment of struggle is a chance to deepen your understanding of yourself and the world around you. Keep walking this path with mindfulness and compassion, and you will discover the strength that resides within you. Conclusion: embrace the journey towards inner peace. As the journey draws to a close, I invite you to take a deep breath. Inhale slowly, feel the air filling your lungs, and then gently exhale, letting go of all tension. Life, my friend, is just like this breath, always moving, always changing. And just as you cannot hold on to a breath forever, you cannot cling to your pain, your worries, or even your happiness. Everything flows. You've walked a long path to get here. Along the way, we've explored the teachings of Buddhism, the nature of suffering, the power of mindfulness, the practice of compassion, and the beauty of impermanence. But as we reach the end, let me remind you of something important. The journey is not about reaching a destination. It's about walking the path with awareness and courage. Buddhism teaches us that peace is not found in escaping life's struggles, but in facing them with an open heart. Depression, sadness, and pain are not your enemies. They are your teachers. Each challenge you face is an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to discover the unshakable calm within you. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine a still lake. Its surface calm and clear, reflecting the sky above. This lake is your mind at peace. Storms may come, winds may disturb the water, but beneath the surface, the lake remains deep and still. You, too, have this depth within you, a reservoir of peace that no storm can destroy. Throughout this series, we've spoken of mindfulness, meditation, and compassion. These are not mere concepts. They are tools for you to carry with you every day. Use them when the world feels heavy. Use them when your heart aches. And use them even in moments of joy to savor life fully. Let me leave you with a simple practice. Sit quietly for a few moments every day. Breathe in and say, I am here. Breathe out and say, I am enough. This is a reminder that you don't need to be perfect and you don't need to fix everything. Just being present is enough. Remember, you are not alone on this journey. Many have walked this path before you, and many will walk it after you. The Buddha himself faced suffering and doubt, yet he found his way to enlightenment by looking inward. If he could find peace, so can you. As this video ends, know that this is not truly an end but a new beginning. You now carry the wisdom of this journey within you. Each step you take from here is part of your story, a story of resilience, strength, and hope. Before we part, let me ask for your support one last time. There are so many views on this channel, but only 0.2% of viewers subscribe. If you found even a spark of value in these words, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Wisdom Woven. It helps us continue this work, spreading light and wisdom to those who need it most. The Buddha said, peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. So, my friend, seek it within. Walk your path with faith, knowing that every step, no matter how small, leads you closer to the light. And when the journey feels long, remember this. You are stronger than you think, more capable than you believe, and more deserving of peace than you may realize. The path to inner peace is not always easy, but it is always worth it. Take that next step and keep walking. You are not alone. You are part of something greater, something timeless. And as you continue your journey, may you find the serenity and joy that have always been waiting for you. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for taking this journey with us. The world needs your light, your kindness, and your courage. Go forward with love, and may peace be with you always.